Hello and welcome to EDFL Web TV from the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds. My name's Teo Pellizzeri, joined as always by Adem Saricaoglu. We had another very interesting weekend, particularly at the bottom of the ladder in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division and Essendon Ford Division 1. Off the top, we'll discuss all the big issues around the EDFL, and then in the podcast segment, we'll break it all down in detail and analyse the weekend just gone and look forward to the weekend ahead. Of course, with the stagger, we can't call it round 15 or round 16, but I tell you what, it continues to deliver the EDFL competition because in all three divisions we still had some massive talking points.
We did, Teo. Still none the wiser who the premiership favourites are in all three divisions after West Coburg went down, and don't have a clue exactly what's going to happen with the relegation battles in Premier and Div 1. So with only about a month left, Teo, it's good to see that it's really coming down to the wire in all three divisions. Let's go through the biggest talking points of the week, and we have to start with Aberfeldie and their coach Mal Michael. He caught up with us after the game. Adem, what I would equate the interview to was just dropping a bomb, truth bombs. Truth be told, pardon the pun, because Mal Michael, after seeing his team win, and win well, but with a few hiccups along the way, was just in a mood where he didn't hold back. Some players, even names were named, copped it in his post-match interview, and the team on the whole was given a real serve. To put it in context, before we break down what Mal had to say, let's now go to the footage. This is from EDFL Radio on Saturday. At your best, you're playing premiership-winning football, but when you do fall off, you might not even get the chance to go to Windy Hill. I mean, it's a pretty big balancing act. Your best is really good, but your worst is not so great, obviously. How much of it obviously is upstairs, and I suppose the psyche of either individual players or as a group. I mean, as a coach, what is that challenge like, and how do you go about, I suppose, trying to get it right now for the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's frustrating. A lot of that has stemmed from players' availability to training. Our attendances have been very poor with our senior players this year, so it's mirroring our consistency and our results. So when we get players that come to training and they train with a bit of purpose, we do get results. It's very hard to implement any kind of training and that you can execute on game day when you just don't get that consistency. So that's been a major problem for us all year.
One thing we've observed from the outside looking in is that if you do win the flag this year, it will be in spite of the things that go wrong rather than eradicating the things that go wrong. Is that a fair comment, or am I perhaps selling you short to... We get to the finals maybe, and when Aberfeldie has two hands on a game, there's no sniff of a comeback and there's no nerves at the three-quarter time huddle. Do you feel as though you can get your team to the situation where you can iron out the problems rather than simply live with them as they present themselves?
I think so. I'm far more comfortable finishing third or fourth than finishing 1 and 2, because the problem there is if you win that first final, you go through. The reality for us is whenever we have a weekend off, we do not win the next week. So we can't afford to have any more weeks off. So to finish third or fourth, we have to play every week. And if we're good enough, we can win.
How far away is Paddock, and what's his problem? Injury?
No, Paddock's overseas, enjoying himself at Tomorrowland. So he's not injured.
Is he going to get his spot in the best 22 back for taking a holiday at this time of year?
Yeah, it's a bit careless of him to do that. But you would think that he would be in our best 22.
Especially given the way he dominated against Avondale Heights. Has caught us by surprise that he's not in tech.
Disappointing, and that'll be up to Wayne to wrestle his way back in.
And Adem, just a stunning interview. We were sort of gobsmacked at the end of it because we still had half an hour of a post-game show to go, and really Mal stole the show with some of those comments that he made. And that's after a 55-point win. I'd hate to see him if Airport West had actually got over the top and rolled the two Blues.
He's been pretty good value for us this year. Mal Michael is quite forthright, and we do appreciate that. And yeah, some really interesting thoughts, especially just what is happening during the week. I mean, it does sort of, I suppose, answer a couple of questions as to why they're so inconsistent. If indeed, blokes aren't rocking up to training, and it's really hard to, I suppose, get it right on Saturdays when the team isn't really spending all that much time together during the week. That is a genuine concern, and a couple other guys as well, obviously, that aren't available at the moment, not through injury, just through personal choice, it seems.
Now, one thing we were left wondering after the interview was over and after the broadcast was over was why has Mal gone public? It's a very public way to tell the rest of the league this is what's going on behind closed doors at Aberfeldie, and we need to do something about it. So does it really give a mental lift or some sort of advantage to the other clubs, or perhaps are we overstating it? Do all clubs face these issues in modern suburban footy? Perhaps the arm wrestle between paying big dollars for really good players who also don't really want to commit full-time to footy and want to go and live their lives and, might want a training session off here and there, or even want to take a couple of weeks holiday here and there. Is Aberfeldie one out here, or is this actually an issue that might affect the entire EDFL and we're just overstating it because Mal Michael happens to be the one that led us behind the curtain at his club?
We wouldn't be overstating it if every single coach and I suppose player that we spoke to was fully honest with us, Teo. I mean, let's face it, we're both journalists at heart. We both studied as journalists, so we do like people telling us the truth and not really holding anything back. And unfortunately, some coaches do that. We understand why. Obviously, they've got to keep certain interests, I suppose, protected. But
some coaches will be honest with us and tell us when they're holding their cards close to their chest. You got to give them credit for that.
Some might not speak to us at all, Teo, which we've had issues as well. This year and even during our professional careers as well as journalists, but that's okay. Look, Mal knew exactly what he was doing. It was a really pointed attack, not necessarily at individuals. I know he did name drop a couple of times, but it was he was really looking at the group, and it definitely will serve as a wake-up call in my opinion, because the players wouldn't have been expecting it. We've obviously, if you weren't listening on Saturday and weren't aware of what he said, then you're watching this and you now know, obviously, and it does reverberate around the league. And Aberfeldie, look, they know they're good enough. Mal knows they're good enough, but they've got to fix a few things in the psyche. We've discussed that on previous episodes of Web TV, and this is, I suppose, his latest approach to try and get it right upstairs, because they're certainly good enough to go all the way, and we know how desperate they are to get that job done.
Just on the podcast segment last week, so perfect timing, I mentioned that if Aberfeldie are to win this year's premiership, it will be in spite of the things that are going wrong, as opposed to eradicating the things that are going wrong. These big opposition runs, Airport West kicked 6 goals in quick succession at the weekend to turn 52 points into 18 points in the blink of an eye. Aberfeldie still went on and won the game. They won in spite of what is a major flaw. Now, had it just been goal for goal after the 55-point margin was hit in that third quarter, we walk away, it would have been a fairly lacklustre game, and we'd be singing Aberfeldie's praises for kicking out to a match-winning score and killing off the contest. But the scoring pattern is what makes it so interesting, and I tell you what, can Aberfeldie continue to allow this to happen? Because we've seen Northern Saints do it to them, we've seen Avondale Heights do it to them, even though Aberfeldie then went and got their revenge in the second head-to-head, and now we've seen Airport West do it as well. Can they actually win the flag playing football with such dramatic momentum swings during the course of a game?
The key is how you finish the games, Teo, and on Saturday that's exactly what they did. So that's probably been the issue, obviously, throughout the year, but they are really, or at least they showed on Saturday, they can finish games really, really well, and that's going to be crucial in September. Obviously, you'd still prefer to have a four-quarter performance, but you know what, there are two teams out there, and the objective of your opposition is to stop you and try and attack and obviously punish you. And it's just the way it falls sometimes. But more often than not, Aberfeldie are going to get on top. It's just a matter of whether they can finish and recover when teams do come at them in the middle of games.
Let's talk about the defeated team, Airport West. It shouldn't be forgotten that at three-quarter time we all thought that they were going to sweep to the front and claim fourth place, but 3 goals was just enough of a mental barrier that when Aberfeldie kicked the first goal of the last quarter, all of a sudden Airport West had a lot of work to do again, and sure enough it was out to 6 goals by the 6-minute mark of the quarter, and at that stage I think we conceded in the box that we'd seen Airport West's best of the day. They lose crucial ground in the top 4 battle. They won't make up the percentage now, so they're going to have to win an extra game to get in. And what do you make of the Eagles? Because without Marcus Kenny, they were able to get a significant win against Avondale Heights the week before, but I think they really missed him, especially with some of the high long kicks inside forward 50 at the weekend.
The second quarter, Teo, that was almost as dysfunctional I've seen in an offensive side of a game I've probably seen in quite a while in EDFL footy. I mean, it just was not working for them. They got no flow whatsoever. They won probably their fair share of the footy and just did nothing with it. I mean, we posed the question in the box during the call, Was it because Marcus Kenny's not down there? And the answer, I think, from maybe yourself was a pretty quick no, because the week before, without Kenny, it certainly worked. I think it was against Greenvale on that particular occasion. So, yeah, just as it has been all year, very up and down, and
I want to
tough
ask
to
you
get
this.
a read. What is their best? What is their worst? There's a wide gap.
One of the issues was that the centre circle, is not perfectly in the middle at Hanson Reserve. Funnily enough, when we went there a year ago and saw Paddy Rose's 100th goal at the ground, the centre circle was at the other end, so it was the western end of the ground that was the scoring end. On this occasion, it was the eastern end. But if you're Airport West and it's your home ground and you train there and you play there, what's your excuse for barely having an inside 50 for an entire quarter? I mean, it was just a bizarre series of events, and they went well over half an hour without even kicking a score, never mind a goal.
I don't know, Teo. Peaks and troughs in games, it's pretty tough to work out. Obviously, Adem Contessa and his coaching staff will be really looking closely at that second quarter. I don't know if they have access to footage, but they'll be watching it pretty closely just to try and figure it out, because in the commentary box, it was quite hard for us to figure out just exactly what was going wrong.
And so we roll through the other big issues of the week. Adem, let's go now to Essendon Ford Division 1, because the last of the 27 teams that had not lost a game this season has finally been conquered, and that was West Coburg being beaten by Taylors Lakes. We actually got the wrong score on the weekend. We thought Taylors Lakes had kicked 22 behinds. They'd actually kicked 12. So it was a much closer game than we thought. We thought Taylors Lakes had actually kicked out to a pretty emphatic result. And I suppose that 10 points does change the context a little bit, because it shows that West Coburg still played reasonably well. But looking at the breakdown of their goal kickers and what happened in the match itself, they just didn't have a winner inside the forward 50. They had to rely on a lot of their midfielders to kick a score. And Taylors Lakes, they've finally shown that they can win this year's flag with what is really a signpost win for them.
Not so convinced that Taylors Lakes can win the flag this
Not
year.
even now.
They're still a fair way back from West Coburg, and West Coburg were due for a downer. I'm very big on the idea that you don't want to be going into a final series completely undefeated, because it does create a lot of pressure, and it does leave you with a monkey on your back that you don't want to be dropping a game now. It puts so much pressure on you. So for mine, no issues at all for West Coburg. The fact that they did struggle up forward a little bit, obviously, in finals footy, it's your big forwards that stand up and in the big moments kick those big goals that can win you games. And they'll be wanting to work on that a little bit, just to find a couple more avenues, but not too many issues for mine for Digny Morrell and his boys down there at the Burgers.
At the bottom of Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division, there was a critical relegation tussle between Essendon Doutta Stars and Maribyrnong Park. The Stars got out to a bit of an arm's length lead at the start of the final quarter. It was an arm wrestle all day up until that point, but that little break was enough to go on and win, climb off the bottom of the table, and now Northern Saints return to last place with Maribyrnong Park very close on percentage. Of course, those two teams drawing with each other, so percentage is vital head-to-head between that pair. And adding to the intrigue, Adem, was we found out in pre-game something which apparently wasn't that big of a secret around Doutta Stars circles, but it was certainly news to us that Marcus Barham has told the committee that he will be standing down at the end of the season regardless of whether they stay up or whether they are relegated. The good news for Marcus Barham is that he might leave the club in Premier Division, which I suppose, given the expectations after the losing streak to start the campaign, avoiding relegation became the sole goal, and they took a big step towards achieving it on Saturday.
Yeah, they just about did. Northern Saints really are in the box seat now to go back down, and it's been a great run for them. Had some pretty good wins along the way, but their run home is extremely tough for the Northern Saints. So a really important win for Essendon Doutta Stars, but gee, Marby, aren't they in serious trouble at the moment? They're really looking over their shoulders at a couple of clubs now, because they've really put themselves in a bit of trouble. I think the Northern Saints are still the ones to go down, but gee, Marby are leaving it pretty close, pretty late in the season to make sure they're safe.
And when it comes down to percentage, it's calculators at the ready, because every score counts. In the last quarter, Northern Saints were coming from a long way back against Avondale Heights. They gave it a good crack, but the difference between bringing it back to only lose by 8 points as opposed to a 30-point margin, or even letting the game get out of control like against Greenvale and losing by 60, 80, even 100. These things matter. So they may have lost, but they repaired their percentage on the day, and you never know, that final quarter against Avondale Heights could be as important as any when it comes to the final analysis at the end of the season.
Yeah, you're right, Teo. It's obviously really, really tight down there at the moment, and just only adds to the excitement. It's great to see that we're needing calculators to just work out the pecking order down the bottom of the table.
I can tell the listeners that we've got John Dozen in the studio, but also we've got Skype up and running on our matchday computer. So if we need someone to head out to the final day, and we'll have a correspondent at Marby and a correspondent at the Douttas versus Northern Saints game, and we might even have a correspondent at the finals in Division 1 and Division 2 that day, because we're going to have it all coming together in what is going to be one very stressful Saturday afternoon. I really do think now we will go down to the final day of the season. I don't think we'll be arriving in the last round with relegation already sorted out from Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division.
And the big one is that the fact that the Northern Saints are playing Essendon Doutta Stars in that round.
Now let's bounce back down a division to the bottom of Essendon for Division 1, because the relegation picture has received another shake-up down there as well. Last week it was Hillside winning with a victory that we thought was going to take them to safety. This week Craigieburn rolls Hillside, and to add even more intrigue to the situation, Glenroy produces one of their best performances of the season, leading all day to beat Oak Park. Same old story for Oak Park. They lose their 7th game of the year by 20 points or less. And for Craigieburn, vital win, because Hadfield now remain vulnerable. They can still be caught on percentage. So a really cutthroat end to the season in Division 1, and I guess the twist is that Hadfield's already played Craigieburn twice this year and already banked 2 wins, so they don't meet each other again. They'll just have to keep their ears on Northwest FM and stay on track with those around the ground scores to work out who's got last and who's got second last based on the percentage through the course of the day.
Yeah, I would have said a couple of weeks ago that whoever goes down in Division 1 is probably a little bit stiff, because every single club down that bottom half of the table has had some pretty good wins this year. But, Hadfield's form of late has been quite horrendous, really. And obviously, Craigieburn is obviously really struggling to put together any sort of decent form. But, they keep getting these wins every now and then, and it just brings everyone back to the pack a little bit. So it's difficult to say exactly who the favourite is to go down there, looking at talent and all, and obviously on paper it seems as though that Hadfield is probably the team that is in the most trouble there, but when they get all their Calder Cannons boys, your Kabadiers and a couple others, I think Judd Brewster, when they're in the side, they play better footy and can push a lot of teams.
Hisham Kabadia did his hamstring playing for the Cannons, so
gone for the year.
I think that's it for the season, especially for Hadfield. Maybe not for the Cannons with finals, but for Hadfield you'd suspect that he won't be coming back. Now, Division 2, biggest talking point of the week. I would say that it was Keilor Park. They continue to remain in the top 4 mix, as do Moonee Valley, as do Jacana. But Keilor Park has opted for a change of coach. Andrew Bubb, friend of the program, because of course he did speak to us for EDFL Web TV after the loss to Jacana. He has now got the senior coaching job on an interim basis. Rob McCluskey has stepped aside. He will still be involved on match days and has the goal of returning to the club next season in a football manager's role. But Andrew Bubb now has the rest of the season to show that he's worthy of the job. And I tell you what, if he can get Keilor Park into the top 4, he might just have it next season. However, the intrigue remains, and we're really no closer to working out who it's going to be that takes on Coburg Districts in that elimination final.
No, we're not. And, of the contenders, Jacana, Moonee Valley and Keilor Park, it's actually quite difficult to say which one of those 3 probably match up best against Coburg Districts. I probably would have said Jacana for most of recent weeks, but then all of a sudden they've dropped off and might have a few injury concerns themselves at the moment. So, it's a really, really good battle there for 4th spot. Each club has its merits, but each club has been quite disappointing as well on paper, though, and I suppose logically you probably would suggest that Moonee Valley is the pick of those 3 teams, but they haven't really done too much to prove that case throughout the year.
You're watching EDFL Web TV from the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds, 690 Mount Alexander Road. Click here, about here, because that's where the link is to the podcast section. So go and listen to our full breakdown of the round, all 3 divisions, and our full preview of the upcoming weekend. And stay with us right here at the Sporting Globe on the EDFL YouTube channel. So now we look forward to the EDFL match of the day. We stay in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division this week, and we're heading to Canning Reserve for the blockbuster and potentially the grand final preview between Avondale Heights and Strathmore. I suppose the good news for the competition, Adem, is that compared to 3 weeks ago, this is far less likely to be the grand final matchup than we may have suspected it would have been when Avondale was still unbeaten and Strathmore was their nearest rival. Now there's a genuine possibility that Keilor, Aberfeldie, Greenvale, if they make it, maybe even Airport West, could gate crash the party. But right now, they're the top two for a reason. And, well, we want to go and see them play and see who's got the edge. Last time, of course, it was filmed for EDFL.tv, so you can check out the replay there. How much of that last head-to-head do you think will matter this time around, some of the lessons learned?
I don't think it will whatsoever, Teo. Probably two fairly different sides that will take the field on this occasion, obviously at a different venue as well. And, recent events has meant that this game has both clubs coming in with a little bit of pressure, I reckon, because obviously Avondale Heights, they want to make sure that they can get their form and a couple of things back on track, obviously, in the wake of recent events, obviously with injuries and some strange losses. But for Strathmore, who are just flying at the moment, they haven't put a foot wrong, but for mine, they're still going a little bit under the radar at the moment. So if they can get a win here, then there'll be no doubt whatsoever that they are the premiership favourite. But if there's one knock on Strathmore, is that they haven't really perhaps won that massive game yet. And I suppose in finals like intensity, if the game does live up to that and it is 100% full pelt and Strathmore do come away, then that's a massive, massive credit for them. And they'll certainly, if they're not already turning heads, they'll certainly start demanding a bit more respect, because I've been on the bandwagon for a little while now. I've made no secret of that for about a month or so, but really think they just need to win this game though, just so a few other people join me on that bandwagon.
Now, the outside midfielders for Strathmore last time, they got a lot of the ball, they didn't convert. You think last time doesn't mean much? I think there's one key thing that Strathmore has to do, and that's execute. They've got to shoot for goal better, and their outside runners, when they get the free open space on Canning Reserve, which can be quite a wide ground, they need to use the ball well, and I reckon for that reason Strathmore will win. I reckon watch out for your man Ash Arrowsmith, one of the broadcast favourite sons, and also Dean Bramley if he gets promoted back into the team, perhaps also Daniel Sinnott if he's fit and ready to go. Strathmore's outside runners, they're the ones to watch. And I think they're going to win. Have you got a prediction? Who do you tip? I recall in the Footballer you may have tipped Strathmore, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I probably did, but I often change my mind on those, Teo. I've said in the past as well.
You change your mind, or I change the tips by accident, yeah. One
or the other. What you think on Monday can often change by Thursday and Friday, obviously, come Saturday. I'm going to go Strathmore as well. They're just in slightly better touch at the moment, but... we've got a game where you've got each team has two key guns inside forward 50. Both the Gromers play for Strathmore. I haven't seen them both live this year, so really looking forward to that. If they fire and then at the other end the Rose and Galea show is on, well, then it's going to be quite an exciting game of football and hopefully a high-quality game. Hopefully a good crowd down there as well. Obviously we'll be there, and hopefully that provides a bit of atmosphere through the FX mics. And if it's a high-quality game with a lot of really high-end talent out there, out on the field, then it should be a great exhibition of EDFL football.
Now, around the grounds, Maribyrnong Park is taking on Pascoe Vale. That will be the EDFL.tv game, which will be filmed. Maribyrnong Park versus Pascoe Vale, another crucial game in the battle against relegation for Marby. So make sure you jump on there on Monday. The highlights will be uploaded. You'll be able to watch the game in full, either streaming it on the web or downloading it and watching it off your hard drive at any time you please. Adem, the social media networks are appearing on the screen: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter account as well. And don't forget the league's official website, essendondfl.com.au, and the EDFL team app. It is the easiest way to listen to the Northwest FM coverage of Match of the Day. And don't forget, we go all the way through until 5:30 p.m. A couple of weeks ago, I missed the first quarter of a match and was listening in on the team app. Adam, it does a great job, and you and Dave Kennedy were sounding very good on the broadcast. So more than 600 people around the league have now signed up. It's absolutely free for iPhone and Android. Make sure you get team app, and I tell you what, it's got a lot of potential as well. Looking forward to utilising it a little bit more in the finals to promote the broadcasts when we start doing Saturdays and Sundays back-to-back.
Yeah, it's all going very smoothly at the moment, Teo, and a great job as well on everything that you've done this year, obviously with the broadcast especially. It's quite a big day now for us in the box, obviously, with the preview, the match of the day, and then post-game as well. So, yeah, it's all going pretty well, but really looking forward now to the finals.
Mal has set a high bar for the post-game, so hopefully
Yes.
Craig Clinic and Saricaoglu are ready for some of the questions that will be coming at them on Saturday. Don't forget, we go all the way through to 5:30pm on Northwest FM. Make sure you join us for the match of the round, Avondale Heights versus Strathmore in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. And we'll be back here at the Sporting Globe next week, 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds for EDFL Web TV. Adem, thank you very much.
Thanks, Teo. Big weekend coming up, and like I said, really hope that Avondale and Strathmore lives up to the hype.
Good luck to all the juniors playing in preliminary finals on Sunday. Have good games, and wherever you go in the EDFL this weekend, enjoy your footy. We'll be back with you next week on EDFL Web TV. Make sure you support our sponsor right here, the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds, 690 Mount Alexander Road. We'll see you next week.